who's the next Pete Rose? Like, who's the next
Oh,
best thing?
there's nobody next Pete Rose. There's some really good players. My style of play don't make a dent on the guys today playing. They're not worried about getting the first and getting the third and getting home. I mean, all they're worried about is how many home runs they can hit. I don't know. I have 26, 27 major league records, but my best record, think about this, my best record is I played in 1,972 winning games.
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
That's perfect. This looks good, right?
Yeah, you look great. Yeah, you look really good. You want to just get into it?
No, don't start bullshitting us and tell us we look good, okay?
You look great.
Recode this shit over here.
Well, thank you for jumping on. I appreciate it.
Are we filming now?
Yeah, go for it.
First of all, my success is due to my dad because I was very lucky. Don't forget, I grew up in the 40s and the 50s. And my father was a great athlete. He was a basketball player, a baseball player, and a football player. A really, really good football player. Probably the best ever to come out of Cincinnati, either him or Roger Staubach, one of the two. And I was always going to a sporting event. I was the bat boy on the baseball team. I was the water boy on the football team, and I was the ball boy on the basketball team. And my dad was a super player, so I got to watch him every time he did an event. I was in the front seat before he was even in the car. I couldn't wait to get to the event, and I played like my dad played. And it's not something that people told me. It's something that I saw live growing up. And I'll tell you something I used to hear. Don't forget, I was from Cincinnati. I was born 3 miles from the ballpark where I played. Okay? And I used to hear this all the time growing up. And people would say, if you're half the man your dad was, you'll be a hell of a man. And I never, ever got tired of hearing that because I knew what kind of, my dad was a banker, plus athlete on the weekends. But don't forget, back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that's all we had to do is sports. We didn't have the iPads. We didn't have the computers. We didn't have the iPhones. And none of that stuff. So we had sports, and I was a three-sport player. But be honest with you, uh, I was a much better football player than I was a baseball player because
Really?
my first love because of my dad. And if I'd have been a good student, and I was one of the students that did well enough to stay eligible, if you know what I mean. Okay, if I'd have been a good student, I'd have went to college and played football. I almost went to University of Tennessee. I flew down there for a recruiting trip one time, and I just didn't dig school, and I made out okay. But I tell people today, kids especially, the more education you get, the better off you're going to be. Yeah, yeah. If I was growing up, I'd have been a ding dong because I just didn't give a darn about school. I just went to school and got grades good enough to stay eligible. But if I was playing today in high school, I'd probably try to get really good grades, knowing what's ahead of you as far as going to college. But we didn't worry about going to college back in the 50s and early 60s. Just like when I signed a baseball contract in 1960, I could have waited till the next year and got a contract, but I wanted to go out and put my 2.5, 3 months uh, of time into my craft and see how good I could be and how I needed to prove what I needed to prove on.
How
You
old
know,
were you at that
at
point?
60, I could have waited a day after I graduated from high school. I could have waited another year and probably got more money, but I wanted to go play ball. I, I wanted to advance myself. I wanted to improve myself. And I was the type of guy, I was always the first one at the ballpark and usually the last one to leave.
Because you loved it, or because
Because
you just
because I wanted to work and I loved it. And I remember when I was in the minor leagues my first year, I was never on a vacation in my life. We never went on vacations. I don't know if it's because we couldn't afford it or what it was, but when I got on an airplane to fly to Geneva, New York, join the Geneva Reds 2 days after I graduated from high school, was obviously the first time I was ever on an airplane, and it was the first time I ever left home. And I remember my dad he used to write me a letter every week, and at the end of the letter, he would always put "Keep hustling." That was his signature to get out. Keep hustling, and that's why I run the first on a walk. That's why I slid head first.
So
That's
you were
why,
just really, you had this desire to make him happy and to really prove him that you were the
yeah,
man.
yeah. I mean, thank God that he was passed away when I had my problems with the gambling, because he would have kicked the hell out of me. That's just the way he was, and I would have really felt like I left him down, which I did. Even though he wasn't here, I still left him down. And if I had everything to do over again, I wouldn't have did that, obviously. But uh, he was a no nonsense, kick ass type guy. Okay, he hated to lose. He always thought someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Let the other guy lose. That was his philosophy, and it's just built up in me from the time I was 9, 10, 11, 12, 30. I mean, just you know, don't worry about your own statistics. Go to the ballpark, play the game right, and hope you come out a winner.
Do
And
you think people today don't have that same drive because,
no,
everybody gets medals and
some do, but not overall, uh, because they got too much stuff going on today. There's too much going on, and we didn't have that much going on. We had sports. We had sports, and that's all we had. But that's all we wanted. And I just was fortunate that I had a dad who had sports too, and my dad was special weight boxing champion in the state of Ohio. He was really an all around athlete, and I'm not bullshitting you when I tell you he was a great football player, because I was a water boy. Watched him play. I watched him play. As a matter of fact, at halftime at the football games, I used to pass the hat around to get money from all the people. There's 5,000, 8,000 people at these games, because the only TV we had with football every Sunday in Cincinnati, the Cleveland Browns were on the air. So that's the only football we got. That's why I was such a Jim Brown fan. Paul Brown, who to come to the Bengals, and Otto Graham, and Ludito Groza. I mean, Marion Motley. I mean, I knew all the Cleveland Brown players because I was their fan, because they were on TV every week. And let me tell you something. This is funny. The TV I watched was about this big. A black TV. It was an 8-inch. I mean, my dad eventually wouldn't let me watch the TV, just like he wouldn't let me go to the movies, because he thought it'd be bad for my eyes.
yeah.
You got to have good eyes to be a baseball player. I mean, Ray Charles would be a bad hitter. Okay, he would
yeah.
be a great singer, but he'd be a bad hitter.
Right. That's hilarious.
I picked a great time to grow up. Well, I didn't pick it; my mom and dad did. But hell, I'd rather be playing today, because I'd be making $40 million a year.
Yeah. What
You
was
know,
the average salary back then? Let's say
my first
coming.
year as a big leaguer. My first year in 1963 as a big leaguer, my salary was 7,000 a year.
Wow.
I won Rookie of the Year in '63. So in '64, I jumped my salary all the way up to 12,500.
Wow.
I, I give I can give you my increases. Okay, 7,000 to 12,500 to 14,500 to 35 to 46 to 85 to 120 to a million 200,000. That's how I increased in my salaries my whole career.
Wow. That's the whole career, though. That's not each year.
No, and when I went to Philadelphia, and I signed a 4-year contract for 3.25 million, I become the highest paid player in sports, not baseball, 810,000, because at the time, and this was for the '79 season, in '78, I got my 3,000th hit. Okay, and I hit in 44 straight games. So I really felt like I wanted to be the highest paid player. And
Yeah.
he gave me 810,000 because the year before there was a basketball player that played for the Denver Nuggets named David Thompson from North Carolina State, and he had an $800,000 contract. I don't know why Rudy Carpenter, the guy that owned the Phillies, he didn't give me 801, but he gave me 810. 801 would maybe the highest paid player. Overboard, give me 9,000 more.
Wow. Now, when you got that check, I mean, how did you feel? Were you like, "This is crazy, $800,000"?
No, believe it or not, and I'm telling you the truth on this. I never saw one of my checks.
Really?
It went to the lawyer, and they didn't mail my check to me. I
Right.
I got my bonus check. You know, when I made the big leagues for 30 days, I got $5,000 extra bonus. I got that check, but I didn't get checks when I was making big money. And in those days, 800,000 was big money.
Oh, huge.
Sure.
But you at least knew it was massive money.
Yeah.
Were you just, tickled to death that you got that kind of money? I mean, what was going through your head?
Well, just that all the hard work and dedication I gave paid
Yeah.
off. It
Yeah.
paid, but you knew it wasn't going to last forever. I understood that. Uh, I got to manage 4 or 5 years after that. So I prolonged the money pretty long. But
Yeah.
gee, I was playing today. I wouldn't be on your podcast. I'd own the podcast.
Yeah. What are these guys making now? Let's say, what's the starting out rate? Would you have, let's say you're going into the league today.
I,
What
I
would,
I think the minimum salary for a baseball rookie today is 850.
wow.
Mine was 7,000.
Got it. It's incredible.
And you got several guys. If you're an established player in baseball, you got to be making 4, 5, 6 million.
Yeah.
Top guys are 18, 20, 25, 30, 35. A couple guys are making 43 million. A couple pitchers. But God bless them.
Yeah.
If because I'm one of those guys. I don't know how you are, but I believe you're as good as you negotiate. I used to tell people it always got on Alex Rodriguez because he signed two $250 million contracts. Two 250s.
Yeah.
And people used to badmouth him because he made a lot of money. I used to tell him, listen, instead of badmouthing A Rod, the next time you have a contract come up, call his agent. Because
Yeah.
doing he knows what he's doing. And don't forget, or I know you didn't know this, but the Cincinnati Reds were the last team in baseball that allowed representation to negotiate your contract. All the other teams, the agent could go in and negotiate. If you're sitting there when all those dignitaries from the team are sitting there and you're a young kid, and all they would do is beat you up, what kind of disadvantage did you have as a player? That's why if you followed my record many years early in my career, I held out because first of all, I believe spring training was too long. I didn't need 35, 40 days for spring training. And when you hold out, every day that goes by creates pressure on both sides.
Right.
And I end up getting what I wanted, but it just took 2 or 3 years of holding out every year. And if you keep yourself in shape in the off season, you don't need a month and a half of spring training or 5 weeks of spring training. Let me tell you the hardest thing about spring training. Okay, the hardest thing about spring training is getting the calluses on your hands for batting practice. Because if you get calluses and or blisters, you can't hold the bat for a couple days.
Did you wear gloves or that didn't help?
Well, yeah, you wore gloves, but early in my career, we didn't have gloves. Nobody wore baseball gloves.
Wow.
And you get those blisters on your hand, and then you have to put the tough stuff on your hand to get those blisters, like calluses.
Yeah.
Then you take all your batting practice. One thing you didn't want to do when you went to spring training is miss 2 or 3 days of batting practice because you couldn't hold the bat because of blisters.
So when did the gloves come out?
Uh, Late 60s.
Late
I came
60s.
up 63. Uh, And I start wearing. See, in '78, after the season was over, we went to Japan for a
Okay.
15 game schedule. We, the Reds, went over there and played the All Star teams. And believe it or not, we lost the first game of a 15 game road trip, and we won the next 14. And I had a 15 game hitting streak over there, which was ironic because I just came off of a 44 game hitting streak during the season, and that was the most hitting streak of any American player ever did playing in Japan, and it was fun. Uh, and let me tell you something. When I went over there, I busted my ass.
Yeah.
I mean, those people are their money's worth. I was diving for everything and sliding head first and hitting baseballs every day and just enjoyed the people because they really enjoyed us.
Yeah.
That was a great trip for me. And another thing about that trip, I got to sign with Mizuno.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I was the first American player to use Mizuno products. I used their bat. Okay. I used their batting glove and I used their shoes. And back in those days, in the late '70s, hell, I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated 21 times.
Wow.
And
So what did you get paid for that deal? Do you remember?
which deal?
The Mizuno deal.
Uh, I remember Louisville Slugger was paying me 12,000 a year. Mizuno paid me 130,000, which was big money in '78, '79,
Oh,
'80. And
yeah. That's
82.
10x more than Louisville.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they were the biggest sporting good company in the world. The only one that imported, exported, wholesaled, retail. And I got to go to the stores over there in Tokyo and Osaka, and met Mr. Mizuno, the whole ball of wax. And of course, when I was coming back and playing, I had those Mizuno batting gloves on, and I'm on the cover of Sports Illustrated, or I had their bat, Mizuno bat, or I had their shoes, and I used their glove. I used their first baseman mitt. So I really represented Mizuno in a good way.
I mean, when you were that, getting those checks, did you buy anything that was crazy? Oh, I bought a Lamborghini, or did you go
I bought,
wild with it?
I bought a '57 Corvette.
Okay, that was the biggest. That was the biggest purchase, you
First
think?
I ever bought. And
Okay.
I bought that in the minor leagues. I
What?
remember because it had two headlights. '58, the dual headlights came out, and it was
Okay.
really a cool a Corvette. It was a midget car, like 283 horsepower. And I remember my first week of playing in Macon, and before I made the big leagues, we played in Knoxville, and my my mom drove my Corvette down to Knoxville for me to drive it back to Macon, so I had a car for the summertime. And I remember after the series in Knoxville, Art Shamsky, my roommate who played for the Reds, played for the Mets, and I were driving back to Macon, and I got caught up. I got pulled over for speeding. Okay, I don't know. We're two kids. We just filled the gas tank up. Okay, we're making $500 a month. $500 a month. And the guy takes us to the police station. And what the hell town was that? A real small town in North Carolina. And he takes us down and he's going to book us for speeding. And he says, okay, empty your pockets. And we emptied our pockets. Okay. Calhoun, Georgia. Calhoun, Georgia. We emptied our pockets and we had $2.83 left. He said, now that's your fine. Now get the hell out of here. He fined us $2.83. He took every cent we had
Wow.
in Calhoun, Georgia.
That's wild.
That's a funny story. If we $183, he'd have took that.
Uh
But
huh.
that's together, all we had was quarters and dimes and nickels because we just filled the gas tank up.
That's funny. What'd you do with that car? Do you still have it?
No, I wish I still had it. Matter of fact, I traded it in on the 1951 Chevy.
Okay. Wow. What's the biggest regret that you purchased? Like, what's the something that you're like, ah, shoot, I should not have bought that.
No, I'm not like that. I mean, I was always a car nut. You know, I had a lot of Porsches. 4 or 5 year period, I worked for Chevrolet in the off season. I drove a Corvette. I always had a nice car. Now I drive a Rolls Royce, and I'm getting ready to trade in on a Bentley. So, I mean, hey, if you're going to park in valet all the time, you can't have a jalopy.
Yeah. Did you ever buy baseball cards?
No, I wish I had, but hell, when I was a kid, we put them in our spokes.
Got it. Yeah. But you
So,
never bought your own and just said, this is so cool.
well, I did when it first came out, but hey, man, I didn't have enough money to be buying cards of of chewing gum with cards in them. I
Really?
wish.
Even after you were playing?
No, I wish I'd have been smart enough to know that. I'd have gathered up every rookie card of me I could have found.
Yeah. But I mean, just to like, I mean, how cool is that? You've got your own baseball card. I mean, that's got to be
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, it was a tops card. Uh, I think players in my era appreciate more than baseball cards is getting your name on a bat,
really.
getting your autograph on a Louisville Slugger bat.
Wow. Okay.
And I went from Louisville Slugger for many years to Mizuno, and I got my name on Mizuno bat.
And so having your name signed on that, that's what really meant the world to you.
Yeah, because you use a bat every day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
well, hell, when I was a kid, we didn't have money to buy the chewing gum with the baseball cards in it.
Right. Did you save any bats? I mean, or was it just
Oh, I
because
got
it was just a piece of
right now.
wood?
Hey, right now today, I have all my All Star game bats,
Wow.
3 or 4 of my World Series game bats in my son's garage,
Wow. That's cool.
and they're probably worth a lot of money because they're actually the bats that I used in the All Star games, and I played in 17 of them, and I played every one of them except one.
Wow. So you have your World Series bats and
This,
your All Star
yeah,
bats.
yeah, because Louisville would always make a special bat for you for the All Star game, and they would always make 2 extra bats for you for the World Series, and it would have World Series Minneapolis, okay, All Star game Anaheim,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and you save that kind of stuff because I didn't get to play in the '71 All Star game in Detroit when
Okay.
Reggie ball off of Doc Ellis and hit the transformer on top of the stadium. And that's the only All Star game I didn't play in out of 17, and that's
Wow.
the one we lost.
Wow.
That's the only All Star game we lost. We won 16 out of 17. But you got to remember, I'm on a team with Mays and Aaron and Clemente and guys like that, and we all were lifetime National Leaguers.
Yeah.
And we all, if you were to ask any one of those guys, I mean, I know Henry's gone, Willie's still here, Clemente's gone, but if you had the opportunity to ask them what was the best league, American League or National League, they would say National League. If you ask Kaline or Yastrzemski, people like that, they say American League
Yeah.
because they played their whole career in the American League.
Right.
But don't forget, back in the '60s and '70s, when we played an All Star game, uh, we were playing for league pride. We were actually playing to prove to the world that the National League was superior to the American League.
And do you
And
think there's still pride today? Do you think people still have
no,
pride?
no,
No.
because too many guys. You have the interleague play now
Yep.
for many years. You have guys changing teams now every time a contract comes out. So there's still a couple rivalries left.
Yeah.
Dodgers and Giants, Cubs and White Sox. You know, I don't know who our rivalry is.
But not like it used to
No,
be.
no, not like it
Who
used to.
who
No.
was the player as a kid or even when you were just in the league? Did you look up to I know you looked up to your dad, but did you look up to anybody else that was
Yeah,
a professional?
I loved the first baseman for the Reds. The guy
Really?
wore Big Ted Kozuski.
Wow.
He's the guy who had the big arms. That's why they cut the sleeves for the Reds uniform because his
Wow.
arms were so big. He used to look at me and he'd point to his muscle like this and he'd say, He was a great guy, by the way. And he could play too. He was a hitter. He would say, "You know what that is?" And I say, "What is that, big guy?" We called him Big Guy, Big Clue. He said, "That's a Polish joke stopper." Because he was Polak. He was a
Yeah.
Polak, and everybody made fun of him. But his arms were—I mean, I'm talking about his arms were out here like this. And he was a home run hitter. And he was a
How was he
football.
so big? Just he worked out a lot, or I mean,
He
what?
he just yeah. He was a big guy. He played
Wow.
foot. He played football at Indiana.
I'm from Indiana.
He played for Indiana before he played
Wow. So that's who you looked up to as a kid, and then when you got there and when you met him for the first time, was that kind of surreal for you?
my batting coach when I made the Reds. Then when I become manager, he ended up being my batting coach for my team.
Wow.
That's how far back Ted and I go.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you still appreciate?
I liked Mays, and I liked Willie Mays, and I liked Jackie Robinson. I got to meet Jackie Robinson. See, because one of my best friends growing up, matter of fact, our dads were teammates, little league teammates, was Don Zimmer.
Okay.
And and I was a kid, and whenever Don would come in town to play the Reds with the Dodgers, in those days, the clubhouse for the visiting team was a separate building behind the stadium. And we would always go back there after the game and wait for Don to come out. And we usually go have something to eat with him and his dad. And because I'm standing there right at the bottom of the clubhouse, he introduced me to Duke Snyder, to Jackie Robinson, to Carl Furillo, to uh, the pitchers, the Joe Black. I mean, just Pee Wee Reese, who ended up being my bat guy at Louisville Slugger. Pee Wee was from Louisville, and every time I needed an order of bats, he would drive him up from Louisville and have him there at game time.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Now,
Harold
did you
Pee
remember that when you started playing? Did you remember what it was like as a kid? And then kind of, I mean, how did that, or do you become immune to it? And you're like, just let me go to my job, play the game that I love and that I'm really great at. And then,
We used to. My dad worked at Fifth Third Union Trust Company, a bank in Cincinnati, for 37 years, and he would always get the bank tickets whenever the Dodgers came into town. And I got to go to, I went to a lot of the games, but I had box seats for the Dodger games because the bank gave my dad the tickets. But when I was a kid, I was a big Cincinnati Red fan. I was a second baseman, so obviously one of my idols was Johnny Temple, and Kluszewski played right next to him. And Roy McMillan played short, and Frank Robinson played left, and Wally Post played right, and Gus Bell played center. Smokey Burgess and Ed Bailey were the catchers. I knew the team
yeah,
because
yeah.
so many games. I went, and we used to go to Cincinnati Bearcat football games because there was no Bengals then. It was just Sunday football when my dad played. But that was fun too, going to University of Cincinnati up at Nippert Stadium to all their home games in the football season. And I went. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, I went for 2 years. I went to every one of Oscar Robertson's home games at
Really?
the
Yeah. Indiana guy.
at the Bearcats. Yeah, and he was from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy averaged 36 points a game for his 3 years of eligibility, because in those days uh, a freshman couldn't play varsity. That's the only
Okay.
reason. That's the only reason that Oscar didn't play 4 years. And he was a pleasure to watch too. He was good.
Yeah.
He was good.
Are you still a big fan? I mean, do you still watch baseball whenever it's,
So all I do is watch sports.
yeah.
I watch more baseball games than anybody you know.
Wow. Now, how
And
about when
that's
fans come
the
up
good
to you
thing about
now?
that's the
Is
good thing about living in Vegas. Because you get the games at 4 o'clock, you get the games at 5 o'clock, and you get the games on the West Coast at 7 o'clock.
yeah. Who's the next Pete Rose? Like, who's the next
Oh,
best thing?
there's nobody next Pete Rose. There's some really good players. Uh, because to be honest with you, I think you'll agree with this. Uh, my style of play uh, don't make a dent on the guys today playing. They're not worried about getting the first and getting the third and getting home. All they're worried about, and God bless them. I mean, all they're worried about is how many home runs they can hit, how much money they can make. You know, I have, I don't know, I have 26, 27 major league records, but my best record, think about this, my best record is I played in 1,972 winning games.
That's crazy.
That's 250 more, 54 more than the guy second, who was a guy that you heard of, Carl Yastrzemski.
Wow.
But that's why we played back in those days, to win.
And you played what, 5 positions, right?
Yeah. Don't ask me my favorite position because that's awful personal. You you could have all your guests on there, and you ask them their favorite position. I'm the only one who's going to say first base.
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
I had, I just played different positions to help. I went from second base to left field to give Tommy Helms a chance to play.
That's
I
crazy.
went from left field to third base to give George Foster a chance to play. So, I did anything to help the team because when I was a little leaguer, I was a catcher.
Wow.
When I got to high school, I went to second base. Then when I signed a professional contract, I played second base. And I played that all the way up till the time I went to left field.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't a defensive expert when I made the big leagues. Because I'm three and a half, 4 years away from being a catcher.
Right.
Now you go to second base, it's a little difficult. But I
Wow.
adjusted because I worked.
Yeah.
And I loved the guy that asked me to switch positions. His name was Sparky Anderson.
He's the guy that asked you to switch.
Yeah, I played for 12, and I could see where if I would move and give Helms a chance to play, who, by the way, was Rookie of the Year in '66, okay, then when I played third, uh, let's see, when I played, I moved somewhere to give George Foster a chance to play because we had him on our bench. I remember Sparky called me in the office one day, and I'm leading the league in hitting, and uh, I'm playing left field. He said, "PD," he said, "we need to get more offense." I said, "Spark, what do you mean? I'm leading the league in hitting. What do you want me to do?" He said, "I want you to move to third base." Why? Because we got to get George in the lineup. Okay, so I moved to third base, and I said, "When?" He said, "Friday. This is
Wow.
Tuesday. This is Tuesday." So I went to third base, and that was 70. And George hit 52 home runs in 72. So that really helped because it gave an opportunity, and I could see the opportunity how it would help the team.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to flop. I mean, I wasn't going to flop because I had some infield experience. So I played second.
Random question. What's the last thing you purchased? Let's say $500 or less that you think did well, like it was the best purchase you've made, $500 or less.
One Gucci shoe.
One?
Yeah, a pair's $1,200.
Okay.
Around with 1 foot.
I like that. Okay, so Gucci shoes make your life better.
No, they make your feet look better.
That's true.
Well, I
Okay.
can honestly tell you, I don't think I've ever purchased anything that made my life better, like an exercise bike or stuff like that. No, no. What I do is I never drank, never smoked, and I watch my diet.
Do you eat organic or do you believe in that stuff?
Uh, no, no yeah, but I'm not going to go out and buy all organic tonight. Here's something I don't do. I don't know if you,
Yeah.
uh, but I'm not one of these guys that someone, I'm gonna take my girl out to eat or something. She'll say, "Oh, let's go try so and so." I said, "Well, I don't want to go try so and so. Why? Because it might not be good, and I'm wasting a night. I'm wasting a meal. Where I got my 4 or 5 spots where I like to go to because I can order something that I really like, and that's where I'll go.
Got it.
I don't
So
want to waste my time. Then all of a sudden, I get a bad meal. Now I'm pissed off because I wasted a night, I wasted money, and I didn't get a good meal.
So then when will you try a new spot? Someone has to highly recommend it, or do you use, online reviews to see, how's this restaurant reviewing?
I'll go to new places that friends of mine own.
Okay,
Give 'em
got
a
it.
shot. Give 'em a shot in the dark.
So listen, I think that's a good quality. You support your friends.
Yeah.
Have you always noticed that, in the good times, the friends are always there. Everybody loves you. The fans love you. Your friends love you. In the bad times, did you notice that certain people weren't there? I mean, because, when I had cancer, I was young at 18, and I realized that, you think all these people are there, and a lot of them were, but then you also realize a lot of them were there to, like you, play baseball with, or there to, go out to eat with. But when shit hits the fan, did you notice that other people are still there to support you?
The people that were important to me.
Got it. Okay. Yep. And you realize
I
real
probably,
quick who those people were.
probably lost some fans along the way, but I think the way I handled my situation, I probably gained some fans back.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
I didn't.
And that's the thing. Life is about learning.
I didn't go around the last 25 years being bitter for something I did.
You grew, and everybody grows. That's what life's about,
I'm the one that screwed up. Why should I get mad at you? I mean, but all I can tell you about that is no one knows the facts like I do. I lived it. I lived it. A lot of people think they read about it, they know about it. It's just like these writers. God bless writers. But for some unknown reason, writers think because they're in the clubhouse after the World Series clincher that they know what it feels like. Let me tell you something. You got to be a member of a world championship team to know what that feeling is. Not being a writer there covering the game for your newspaper. That don't give you shit credibility. Okay, I just went through 7 games of the World Series and I won it, and I know what it feels like inside. Ryan Federman's sitting right there. He don't know what it feels like, but he's for the Houston Chronicle. He thinks he knows what it feels like because he's sitting in there watching us celebrate. It used to drive me crazy. First of all, why are they in here? This is our celebration. We just won the World Series. Can we have some peace, some time with each other? Because this is going to last the rest of our life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got along with the press more than anybody until I had my problem. Then all of a sudden they start trying to act like they know what was going on. And none of them were ever right. But which is, life's too short to be bitter. Life's too short to go around with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, you're living good. You've done more, in life than people dream of. And now you get to travel the world and see fans and make them happy, and you're living good.
We'll make a lot of people happy Friday, hopefully. Not happy, it's not because of me. As a matter of fact, Ryan tells me all the time, you take too long with customers. When I used to work in Vegas signing autographs 5 hours a day, 15 days a month, 17 days a month, sit down, have a seat. Your grandma's sick, let's call her. I'm not like
Oh, that's
this.
amazing.
Next.
What have you not done yet in life? You've done so much. Is there one thing on your bucket list that you want to do still?
No, because I was one of them guys. You got to remember, when I played, we went from Cincinnati, San Diego 3 times, San Francisco 3 times, LA 3 times, New York 3 times, Philly, Chicago, St. Louis. So when the season was over, I wasn't one of those guys that couldn't wait to get on a plane to go to England, or couldn't wait to go to Italy, or couldn't wait to go to Venezuela. I never was a traveler like that.
Pete, I tell you, you are a legend. I mean, I know you've got to go. Your schedule's tight, but I appreciate you so much. And
I had fun.